too. I guess some of the other things we need to kind of step back though, just talk about bull fertility in general. You know, a breeding soundness exam is a very good practical predictor of a bull's fertility, but it's not a guarantee. We can't evaluate everything that we know through some research and things like that. There are just other factors that affect bull fertility. You know, bull behavior is one. There's some intangibles I think that we still don't know how to measure, but with the advent of DNA technology where we can test progeny and actually see how these bulls perform in the pasture, you can put bulls out that are identical in every way that we know how to evaluate. We get the calves back from them. We know that some bulls will just sire more calves than others, and those are things that we have to take into account. You know, there's things like libido and social structure and things like that, and I think a lot of times those things are individual to a pasture full of bulls. You know, this bull right here behind me, he might perform differently in a different pasture setting. So a breeding soundness exam is a good predictor of fertility, but again, it's not a guarantee, but it's again, we have to manage these things. You can't manage what you don't measure. So we're out here measuring as best we can and trying to predict that. So.
Okay, so a breeding soundness exam, what's that really tell me then? If I go in and I'm looking at some parameters, basically examine the bull and then looking at semen and everything, so what does that tell me? Does that tell me, is that bull sterile? In other words, if I'm going out here and I'm testing 100 bulls today, what percentage of those bulls would I expect to not come up to satisfactory standards? And would that mean those bulls were sterile? I mean, what percentage of bulls are not going to pass the breeding soundness day in, day out on the average? And I realize that that's going to be different from different days, but on the average, in other words, that a lot of people kind of think, well, most bulls are fertile, right? Most bulls, and they're gonna be fine. And then if I buy, and I think you've covered this, but I still think it's very, very important that people understand, if I buy a bull at a sale and he's had a breeding soundness exam, that is not a lifetime guarantee that that bull is going to be sound. So what happens if that bull, I buy that bull first year, turn him out, he comes up lame? Is that going to affect his fertility? I mean, those are the points I'm trying.
Sure could. I mean, it could affect his fertility because he himself cannot get around the pasture. He might also be intimidating other bulls even though he couldn't service a cow. So it could not only affect him, but it could affect maybe the other bulls. You know, these are some things that, again, are often in individual situations, but we know they happen.
Exactly. So many times in practice, I would have a producer come in and you do a breeding soundness exam, and you say, well, he doesn't pass the breeding soundness exam. Well, there's sperm and they're swimming around in there. What do you mean? Won't he work? That doesn't say he won't breed some cows, but will. Talk a little bit more about what we're trying to do with this. What's the economics of it?
We have some minimum standards that they have to meet. You know, we want them to be, hate to say average or above, but that's kind of what we're shooting for.
Okay.
So just because he's, you know, below average and maybe deferred or even something like that on a BSE, you know, he could obviously breed some cows, but he wouldn't be a bull that we'd have a lot of confidence in to go out and breed a bunch of cows. You think about what a bull has to do, really, in the pasture. Cows come in heat, he's got to service that cow multiple times, and he's got to do multiple cows. And some bulls don't always make that adjustment. So we're asking a lot of these bulls in a pasture situation.